Hey guys, welcome back. This is Naveen from UiBrains Technologies, and so this is another crash course on the most popular front-end framework. The JavaScript framework is Vue Js. So previously we have discussed about the React.js framework and also Angular framework, right? So these two are actually the front-end technologies to develop any front-end, single-page application with two-way binding and all this. So the Vue.js also comes into the same category, and Vue.js will be the best competitor for both React as well as Angular. And the one point I want to stress here is Vue.js is far easy when writing your source code when compared to React as well as Angular. Okay, so let's start with Vue.js crash course here. So before we start with, we understand what is Vue.js. So first, it's a progressive JavaScript framework, so which is same like your React and Angular frameworks. So Vue.js also comes in the same category, and using Vue.js, you can develop a single page application with two-way data binding. So two-way means from your component as the view will be in sync. Okay, and also we will develop a single page applications even yes with Vue.js because it's the same category of React and Angular. And so this is developed by a person called Evan Yu and is a Chinese person, and which was started in the year some 2014. And so now the current version which we are learning is Vue 3. So Vue 2 was the legacy version, and Vue 3 has completely reinvented and rebuilt or re-engineered with the new features and completely is a newly structured. Okay, so we will be learning here is Vue.js 3 version. Okay, and it is very easy to learn. It is very easy to learn because the concepts and the things are will be very easy. Okay, so that's all about the Vue.js. And so what are the prerequisites for learning Vue.js is you need to have a basic knowledge on HTML and CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript is enough. And you don't need to have a prior knowledge on React or Angular. It's okay. You can start learning this from the scratch. Okay. And if you want to, and you also required to have a knowledge on Bootstrap because we'll be using most of the Bootstrap here. And previous videos we have discussed about Bootstrap crash course as well. So if you want to gain some more knowledge on these prerequisite technologies, so please go log on to my YouTube channel, UiBrains, and please check it out. Okay. So now let's jump in. So this is the course content of our Vue.js Crash Course 2022. So first we'll start with how to create a first application using Vue.js, and there is Vue CLI, is a command line interface. So using that we can create a first application, and then we'll dive into what are the folder structure and control flow and how the application works, the complete flow we're going to see. And after that we'll start applying the CSS styles, and then we'll move on to the Bootstrap styles and how to add a font awesome icons and how to add a Google fonts for your application. And also we'll see how data binding works, okay, and how the props concepts and what is the state concept and how to handle them and with examples. And also we'll see events handling, how to handle the events, especially in a Vue.js with a few examples. And then we'll see the form handling, so how to handle the forms and how to submit the form data, like two-way data binding, how it works in Vue.js we're going to see here. And also we will start with conditional rendering, like how conditionally you render your content. Okay, so how you check the conditions. Okay, and also we'll see list rendering, like the list of data or arrays of data, how you can loop through and display on a UI. Okay, so how the looping happens, so that concept we'll see. And also I'll show you how to make your Vue.js application connects to the backend server, then how to make connection to the backend server API, the REST API, and how can you fetch your data and how can you display it. Okay, so the server connection also we'll see. It's like a full stack application we can see. And also finally at the end of this course we also see a Vue router, so how to make the routing system. And also we make a beautiful example on Vue router. So this is the complete course content of our Vue.js crash course. Okay, so now let's get started with how to create a first application. All right. So to create the first application of Vue.js, so first you have to install a package, that is Vue CLI. So first I'll go with the official website of Vue.js. You can search for Vue.js. So this is the official Vue.js website, and where you can find a lot of resources like how to get started and the GitHub resources and complete information about the sponsors and all you can see here. So when I just click on getting started and where you can see the complete tutorial information about Vue.js. So don't worry, we're gonna start developing out of all this. Okay, and along with the Vue.js, there is something called Vue CLI. Okay, so this is one command line interface for Vue.js. So which by using this CLI, we'll be developing the resources of Vue.js. Okay, so you can just log on to these two websites and you can refer. And the very important thing is, in Vue.js, this is the Vue 2. It was an old version, and you want to have a new version 3.x. You can select the 3.x. So 3.x is actually the new version and new Vue.js. Okay, so because Vue 2 and Vue 3 are completely different, two different versions. So make sure you check the latest version called Vue 3. Okay, as of today when I'm recording this video. Okay, Vue CLI. So first let's create, first install the CLI and then I'll tell you how to create a project. Okay, so the very first thing how to install is, so I'll show you. Let me open a notepad, something here, this one. So npm install -g vue CLI. So this is the command to install the CLI. Okay, so let's open a command prompt. Okay, so let's space and enter. So make sure you have a proper internet connection to download this particular resources. So let's wait for a few seconds for downloading of this. I think it's not started. Come on. 1 second. Let me stop it and run again. Okay, so it will actually should start. So okay, it started. Just wait for some time. Yep. So it will download the Vue CLI, and so once it is done, okay, let's wait for it. All right, so it's finished now. This is the current version, so 4.5.15. Okay, so once you have this installed, so you can now start creating your application. So how you get a first application here is Vue create and your application name. So Vue create and your application name. So my application will be Vue hyphen crash course. Okay, so Vue crash course. This is my application name. So where I want to create the application, not on the C drive. So let me go to another folder. So some iDrive and YouTube UiBrains. So here I want to create. So let's copy the path because where you want to create a project. So you have to copy the path here and you jump into that path. So I'll paste it. So in iDrive, sorry, I colon. Okay, so here you have to copy this particular command and paste it, enter. Simple. So this will create your Vue.js project. It may prompt few questions so that you have to answer. So let's wait for it. Come on. Okay, so it is looking for a few examples. So I just select the first one, the Vue mastery. So what is this is it will actually give you options like some pre-built options will come like Vue 2, Vue 3, manually select the features like that. So I'll select the first one, Vue mastery, which already contains with router and Vuex. Okay, let me select that, and now it's creating the project. So you have to wait for a few minutes for make this project to create. All right, so I have executed this command for Vue create, and it's been downloaded all the required packages, and you finally got this. So you get at the end of this is nothing but you have successfully created the Vue.js project. Super. So now let's you need to go inside of this folder and you need to run this command called npm run serve. Okay, not like React or Angular. In Angular we use ng-serve, and in React we use npm start, and here is npm run serve. Okay, let me load the project to the editor, and then I'll talk about the control flow and the folder structure, and then we'll start the application. Okay, so where this project is created is here. Okay, these are all the folders and files created. So let me copy this path, and you can use any of the editor. So I'll be using WebStorm as my editor. Okay, and let me open the Vue crash course. Okay, okay, fine. So now it's been open here, and there's a README file. Okay, so install, run commands, and all that's given. That's fine. That's okay. So very first thing is let me start the application, and then I'll talk about the folder structure. Okay. So how we start the application is you need to go to the folder location, your application location. Vue crash course is my project name. Here I say the command is npm run serve. Okay. So this runs on a port number 8080. Like a React runs on 3000, Angular runs on 4000. Okay, so it is now starting. Okay, wait for a few seconds, it will start. Yes, perfect. So now let me close all the things. Yeah, so this is the default because when we create the project, we have selected the option, right? The view mastery. So with that, this is the project gets created automatically. So it also contains the routing information, and we also having some nice home page, and we also have some links to the other tutorials and our plugins. Okay, fine. So this is the home page. Okay. Anyway, we'll do the development from scratch. We are not using any of this structure, but that's fine. Yeah, so first look into the folder structure. The very first folder is node modules. If you all know, node modules contains all the JavaScript libraries. So all the JavaScript libraries which are using internally of Vue.js will be listed out here. You don't need to bother about this folder. And there is a main important two folders, public folder and SRC folder. So public folder is like your public HTML files. So whenever you enter this particular URL, it will be jump into the home page, that is index.html. So that public folder is here. The public file is here, index.html. That's a home page. And we also have an icon, that is favicon icon, this one. Okay, that's very simple public folder. And we have a source folder. Source folder is very important because complete application source code resides in the SRC folder. Okay, so in this we have few other folders. One is assets folder. Assets folder is for your images. If you have some images, you have videos, local videos, audio files, any such resources you can keep in a assets folder. And components, of course, Vue.js also uses the component based development, so all your components you can keep in a components folder. Okay, and router. So router contains the routing configuration and store. So store is actually, we are not discussing any store concept here in this crash course, because the store is like your Redux store. Okay, Vuex store it is for handling state management. And views, yeah, when we talk about what's the difference between views and components, generally what Vue.js says is the complete page is called as a view. Inside any particular portion is called as a component. I repeat, in the entire Vue.js application, each and every page is called as a view. In that page, any small portion in the page is called as a component. Okay, for example, see here, home and about. So home is one page, about is one page. So two pages is two views. Okay, in the home, there is some content which is displayed, that is component. Okay, fine. An update view, that's a root component. And the most important thing is here the components is having an extension called .view. Okay, .view. I'll talk about that. And we have a main.js for main configuration file, and we have few other files. Okay, so browser configuration, and so ES and ECMAScript configuration, the GitHub Babel configure, and package.json. So package.json, there are some scripts, serve command, build command, lint command, and there are the dependencies users view router and vuex already installed for us. Okay, and we have a dev dependencies as well. Okay, and we have a readme file. So these are all the folders and files. Okay, before I jump into the control flow, you must know the component. So how the Vue.js component looks like. So every Vue.js component, for example, if you take Angular, for component means you have list of files like one CSS file, one JS file, one TS file, one HTML file like that. So three files will be there. When you take about React.js, so you have a JSX file or TSX file and along with the CSS file. But here in Vue.js, you don't have all list of files. Angular 3 files, React 2 files, here one file. Only one file, that is with an extension called .vue. Okay, so this itself is one component. Okay, for example, app.vue. So app.vue is actually the root component. Under that we can create our own components as well. So app.vue. So how can this will become a component, and where you have to write a code? So generally, to develop a component is a sense any small piece of UI. Okay, so it can be a card, or it can be a table, it can be a button, it can be anything, right? So to make that particular thing uh, in as a component, so we have to write different type of uh, code, right? For example, we have to write a HTML code, we have to write CSS code, and we have to write JavaScript code as well. Okay, so you have to write all the source code here, only one file. So in this file you have three parts. Okay, three parts. Okay, app.vue contains the three parts. So first part is for HTML, and second part is for JS, and third part is for CSS. You know how it is in the app.vue. For example, let me take to the paint. Yeah, for example, you have a, this is your view, app.vue. For example, let's say app.vue. Okay, and file name should be start with uppercase and extension will be lowercase. Okay, so in that you have three parts. So first part, the second part, and the third part. So the first part goes with a tag called template tag. Okay, and then slash template. So what is this template is, you have to write all your HTML source code. Okay, and there will be one script tag. There'll be one script tag. You have to write all the JavaScript code is here, and there'll be one style tag. Your complete CSS styles you have to write in this style tag. So HTML is there, JavaScript is there, and CSS is there. So all together we call a file called Vue. So every component in Vue.js will be .vue file. Okay, fine. And the structure of all these things also I'll tell you. Okay, so now let's start with the control flow. So whenever I enter this particular URL, for example, let me take into the notepad. Yeah, so whenever I enter this particular URL, let me slow down. Yeah, so whenever I enter this particular URL, what happens is I got this page. Okay, so how does I got this page? What are all the internal things happening for getting me this page is like this. So whenever you enter this particular URL, by default, whenever you enter any URL, so first it will jump into the home page. Okay, so home page is in sense index.html. So my application will go inside of index.html. So let me look into the index.html, and where is this file locates? In a public folder. So let's go inside the public folder index.html. So this is the index.html for home page, and which have some meta tags and few links tags and title and no script for JavaScript. And then lastly, we don't have anything, just one division. Okay, so let me take it out here. It is having just like this. Let me change the language to HTML. Yeah, so we have just one division. We have just division with ID app, and inside of that we doesn't have anything, the same like React or Angular. Okay, so fine. So something getting injected in the place of this division, in between of this division something is getting injected. So where is that? So immediately after this index.html, you have to jump into the main file, and the main startup file for your project of Vue.js is in a SASE folder main.js. Okay, so let's jump into the main.js. It's very simple file which imports something from Vue app. Okay, app component. and some router and store. Okay, so this is the important step. Okay, so create app is, as I told, it's a root component. Okay, use store, uses the router, and mount hash app. You know what is this hash app? So hash app is your ID. So there is a division with ID app, right? So how you refer is hash. So hash app, so it means in the place of hash app, it is mounting the app with the store as well as the router. Okay, that's what the configuration here. So it means indirectly what it means is in the place of app, this app is getting injected automatically by the application flow. Okay, so what is this app? App is the root component, that is app.vue. So now let's jump into what is this app.vue. So if you go to the app.vue, yeah, so which contains a lot of things. Don't worry, I'll tell you. See, as I said, Vue contains three parts, right? So one is template, style, and script. But of course, app.vue doesn't have a script. Don't worry, I'll show you how the script looks like. Yeah. So we have a template, and there is one division and routing because they have implemented the routing system. So routing and the styles. Okay. So div with ID nav, in that router link slash for home and slash about is about page. So this it has been displayed. See, home and about links has been displayed here. Okay, and then router view. So this is actually the routing system configuration has been injected here. And so if you want to know about how does this coming from is in the home page. So let's go to home.vue.js. Actually, this routing was given in the router folder. Okay, for when you make an empty slash, then you go to the home page. Component is home. Okay, so when you go to home.view, yeah, here you can see template and script. So this script imports hello world view, one component, hello world component, and it is like this: export default name of the component, and what all the component has been imported here is listed out here. Okay, and the template I have a home. There is a image logo, that is this one, and under that hello world component with a message, welcome to Vue.js app, this one. Okay, and see, only image is there in the home and all the rest of things is coming from hello world component. So when you go inside hello world component, yeah, you can see here you have a message, the message which is getting through props, and for guide recipes and all the links are here. Okay, and we also have a script tag and we also have a style tag. Got it? Okay, that's a control flow. So it means what happened, it's been gone to main.js file and where the all the configuration happens from their app.vue. Okay, this is the root component. Okay, this is how the flow works. Okay, that's fine. So now we understand the folder structure and the flow, and now let's jump into the actual our own things. Okay, we have to learn few things. Okay, we don't need to use this UI. We have to develop our own UI with our own components. Okay, so let's start clean up of this code now. All right, so now let's clean up this code here. The very first thing is I close all the tabs. Yep. So let me go to app.vue. So in this, I don't need any of these router links. I'll remove, and no router view. I don't need it. Just template, and I'll say just h2 tag app component. Okay, and I don't need to use any of these styles. Let me delete all the styles. Okay, so we just have only this thing, and the script tag is missing. I'll add. Okay, so template, script, and style. So let's save it. So you can check now. We just have only app component. Okay, so it's very basic now. So first concept what we understand is how to apply your CSS styles. The very first thing how to apply CSS styles is you go to h2 tag. For example, you want to apply styles for this. You may write a style attribute. Let's say color red. Okay, so it will become color red color. Okay, for example, you change this to blue, it'll become a blue color. Okay, this is one thing, one way of adding styles inline, or else you go to style tag, let's say h2 tag, let's say font family, Calibri and sans serif. So I change the font. So what happened? You get the font. Okay, and the very important thing, just be with me. See this, these errors are actually coming from Prettier. So first change you have to do, I forgot to tell you, is just open eslintric.js and remove this Prettier. So this Prettier actually, which interprets. I mean, this will actually disturb your writing source code in Vue.js. Both are actually a bad combination, Vue.js and Prettier. Just remove the Prettier. You can happily write a code. Okay, believe me, it's gone. Okay, it looks good now. Okay, so font family, you got it, and also just say color blue, apply. Okay, looks good. So you can apply styles like adding a style tag here, or in the style tag also you can apply the styles. But instead of writing all the styles like this, you can have a global style sheet as well. So where do we have a global style sheet? They actually not given any global style sheet for us. So you can create one. Let's say styles.css. Okay, fine. So style.css. But how does this style.css gets connect to my app? It's very simple. You go to style it import dot slash style.css. You add like this. Okay, it imports style.css. You can add. And now here, see the styles has been removed. I'll say h2 font family, again Calibri and sans serif. You get the font apply, and the sig color is green, something like forest green. You get the green color of Vue.js. Okay, so that looks good. So this is how actually you can apply the styles using a basic CSS. But if you start writing the complete CSS, and it will be very late for us to learn the new concepts. So what I will plan is, let's configure Bootstrap so that rich UI will come, and on top of that we also learn the Vue.js component. So now let's start with how to configure Bootstrap for your Vue.js application. All right. So now let's configure a Bootstrap for my project. So before I do that, so how we install Bootstrap is, you can make something under that. Just say npm install Bootstrap. Npm install Bootstrap. Okay. Along with this, I want to add a font awesome icons as well. So let me jump into Google and search for font awesome npm. I think it's not that one. Let's say at font awesome npm. Yeah. So I got this link, and this is the command. Let me copy and paste it. Yeah, this is the one. I'll cut and keep it here. So both together I'll install. So npm install Bootstrap and fontawesome/fontawesome-free. So both gets installed together. So let's copy the path and let's go here. Yeah, wait, before we install, actually you can also add the CDN link of Font Awesome. So where you can find the CDN link of Font Awesome is, you can search for something called CDNJS. It's not working. CDNJS Font Awesome. Yeah, this CDNJS. So where you can choose the latest version. For example, this 5.1 by 0.4. You can copy the link tag. So where you need to add this link is in your public folder index.html. Above the title you can paste it. Okay, this is the Font Awesome's CDN link for getting the all icons. Okay, that's one step. And the second step, we need to install the packages first. So let's copy the path and make sure you have a proper internet connection. So I'll jump into another terminal, I'll paste it and enter. So both Bootstrap and Font Awesome gets installed together. Okay, so depending on your internet connection and then speed, this will get downloaded. So let's wait for this to finish. Okay, it's been finished. Yeah. So once it is finished, it will get downloaded to the node modules folder and you have to configure them with your application. So how you configure them and where you have got to configure. Where you have to configure is go to main.js. Yeah, here you have to configure. So first let me configure, come on. Let me configure the font awesome CSS, that is import. Uh, this is main.css in src folder, but if you come out from src you see node modules. So you do like this dot slash node modules slash it font awesome slash css slash all dot css. That's fine. And you want to configure bootstrap css. So let's say import dot slash again node underscore modules slash I need to have a bootstrap slash this slash css slash bootstrap.css as one thing. And also I'll configure JS as well. So import again dot slash node underscore modules slash bootstrap. I made a module slash bootstrap slash this slash js slash bootstrap bundle dot js. Okay, dot js not required, just a bootstrap bundle. Okay, that's it. So font awesome has configured and bootstrap has configured. So let me check is it really configured or not. So let's go to app.view or app component. See the font has changed. Okay, that's fine. And go to style.css. I don't need anything like this. Okay, fine. Yeah, to confirm, I'll write one button with a class btn. See all your classes coming automatically. Let's say success and let's say hello. So you get the hello button from Bootstrap. That's fine. And you want to have icon testing. I tag the class fe minus home icon. You get the home icon and you want to have text to success and fe minus 4x. Yes, you also got an icon. Okay. So Bootstrap has successfully configured, and one last thing I want to have my own font, a Google font. You can just go to Google and search for Google fonts. Just let me search for Ubuntu font and this let me select and just select the import and you need to copy this at import copy. And where do I have to write that is in your global style sheet index.css, paste it. Okay, and let's say for the body tag I'll say the font family is Ubuntu. I'll say font family Ubuntu and let's make it is important because it will override from what's called Bootstrap. Okay, Bootstrap was using Roboto font and I want to override with Ubuntu font. So let's check. Yes, Ubuntu font has changed. If you want to know more, let me write a paragraph or let's say h1 tag with some lorem 30 tab. See, this is actually Ubuntu font. Okay. So that's fine. So we have successfully configured. So we have successfully configured Bootstrap, Font Awesome, and Google Fonts. Okay, now let's talk about data binding and all other concepts. Okay, let's see that one. All right, welcome back. So now what I do is let me delete these things. Okay, I don't need the button and icon. Let me delete. And anyway, we have started with Bootstrap, right? So let's make this as a Bootstrap setup. So one container, one grid system, and one row, single column. Let's say p.h3. Let's say app component. Okay, and let's add some margin top 3. Got it. And let's say text success and font weight bold. You get some content, and then let's have a paragraph of lorem 30 tab. You get this, and I also add a class called font weight bold. Okay, not bold, font style italic. Okay, so we have got our component with bootstrap styles. So now the concept here is props and state. So in this, first we'll start with the props and then we'll start with the state. So props is a sense, if you want to transfer any data from one component to another, because if you are developing a complex application where you have a lot of components internally connected, right? So you need to transfer data from one component to another. Generally, every component will have its own data, can maintain its own data. That's called state. And also sometimes what happen, parent component can send data to the child. Okay, that's called props. Generally in React and Angular also. So in Vue.js also how props works, we'll see. Yeah. So first of all, I will create one component. Yeah, in SRC components, I have one component called hello world.view. I remove, but if I remove hello world, you may get the error from home. Yes, hello world removed. I got the error. Just go to views, home.view. See here, hello world dot is there. I remove hello world. I remove hello world. I remove hello world. Okay, now happy. Yeah, that's fine. So in the components, I create one component. You can write new file dot view, or else I have view component. I'll show you both. New file, just say customer dot view. You create like this customer dot view, and one thing you have to write is your template, and you have to write template. Let's say h2 customer. Okay, and then you have to write a script, and then you have to write a style. Okay, so this is your basic component of Vue.js. So instead, if you want to get the detailed structure, I'll tell you. In WebStorm, you have an option for Vue component. Just say name customer. You get everything. Just say h2 customer. Okay, and export default name of the component is customer. That's very simple export object. Okay, so now let me connect that to app. For example, under this, yeah, somewhere here, I'll say customer. Okay, so I got a customer component. Okay, that's fine. Now, for this customer component, I want to provide some data. Okay, I want to provide some props. Okay, so how you provide the props? First, let's design the customer. For example, one container, one row, single column. I say p.h3 customer. Okay, you got a customer. Okay, and now for this customer, I want to provide some data, because how many times you write customer, you get, oh, just customer. Okay, but I have to provide some props. How you provide props? Like this. You say name is Rajan, and age I'll provide some 25, and designation I'll provide a software engineer. Okay, for customer, I'm providing three properties: name, age, and designation. So these three properties I am providing for the customer. But how can I receive those properties in this? Because I have to display those properties in my customer component by receiving it from app. So how can you get those things is, see, this is the function, right? I mean, this is the export statement, right? So under that, you can define the props. There is a property called props, and this props contains an object. Okay, in that you have to specify all the props and its types. So for example, what are all the props has been provided: name, age, and designation. So those things you can provide here. Just say name is a prop. Type of that is string. Okay, and is that required? It is required true. Yes, it's a mandatory property. So like that, I have two other. So age is there, and also designation is there. If you want to have number, you can provide number as well. Okay, so the props which are providing from the app is name, age, and designation. So those you must have to declare. Those you must have to declare in the received component as props object. So this is predefined variable. Okay, and this name, this props are predefined variables from the Vue.js component, and where you have to specify the props like name, age, and designation. So name of type string and required is true because all are mandatory. I say required is true, and this is number and this is string. Okay, so you have provided values and I have declared them and how to use them. How to use them is, let's say ul some li. Let's write some bootstrap classes list group, and this is list group item. So here I say name. So what is the name is yeah. And one more thing, how you can bind your dynamic data. How you can bind dynamic data is in React JS we have single curly brace. In Angular we have double curly brace. Even in Vue JS we have double curly brace. So here I say directly name. Name from the props. Okay. So now let's check. You got Rajan. Okay. So same way I'll copy this and paste it and paste it. So I'll say age and I'll say designation. So here you have to specify the age and here is your designation. Okay, so you got age and designation as well. Okay, so this is props concept. So any information which you're providing through props, you must have to declare the props here and then you have to use it. If you without writing here, you can't use it. Okay, so that's a condition here in Vue.js. Okay, so we understand now how to add props, right? So now let's talk about a state, how to maintain your own state data. So, okay, how to maintain state data is, for example, I create another component. In components folder, new view component, let's say employee. Okay, let's say h2 employee. Okay, so let me connect employee here. Employee component has been connected under the app. So as soon as you have connected, automatically it imports the component from the components folder and it also adds the list. Okay, what are all the components as using in this particular component will get listed out here. Okay, and this comes automatic in WebStorm and maybe in VS Code you have to write these import statements and this configuration manually. Okay, so when I got employee, so let's check. I got employee, yes, fine. Yeah, in employee I will write the basic structure, one container and one row and one single column. Let's say p.h3 employee. Okay, my component name. Okay, now I want to maintain my own data. I don't want to receive the details from the parent to child. I just wanted to maintain my own data, that's called state, in my own component called employee. So how you maintain the status? See, for props what you have used the property called props, right? Same like that, if you want to maintain the state in Vue.js, you have to use another prop, the predefined prop called data. And this data is, see, props was object, but this data is not an object, it's a function. So data is a function that will return an object and that is your state. Okay, remember this. Whenever you want to maintain state of your component, that will be a data property. Okay, data property value is a function and that function returns an object that itself is your state. So in that I want to maintain the information, let's say employee object with a name, same name I write so that you understand. Name is Rajan, age 25, designation software engineer. Okay, so name Rajan, age 25, and designation software engineer. Okay, so this is all your state data, and this particular state data I wanted to display here because I want to display like UL tag and all. So how we can use the state data is, you will write UL li and in this you say class list group and here you say list group item So let's say the name of it. So name double curly brace for expression. So employee dot name directly you can say. Actually you can use it like this keyword, this dot employee dot name. Okay, so copy. So let's say age, and this is designation. This dot employee dot age and this dot employee dot designation. So your state data you can read in the component like this way, and you check now. You got data. Rajan 25 and software engineer. So confirm. I'm providing props, and how you display props is you declare it and use it. Okay, and I just not providing any props. I have my own data to maintain like this data property, and then here, and along with data you want to have props also. You can say props, and then you have to define the props and use the props as well. Okay, but as of now we don't have any props, so I can just leave it as empty. Okay, so fine. So now with this we have understand about how to maintain the props and state. So now let's talk about how to make the event handling. Okay, the next concept as per our once again as per our slide is events handling. So let's make events handling in Vue.js. All right. So before I proceed with events handling, let's take a backup because I'm going to remove these components from here. So how do I take a backup is in the Vue.js crash course. Let's create separate folder. Okay. So Vue hyphen crash course 2022. Okay. This just to take a backup. Yeah. Here I create a folder for 01 hyphen bootstrap styles and yeah props and state. Okay. So what I do is in my first tab, yeah, Vue crash course, I have everything. So except node modules and idea, I'll copy everything. I'll keep it in not the Vue crash course, bootstrap props and state. Okay, so up to here, what we discussed, I have taken a backup into this folder. So now we can change it in the Vue crash course. That is here, Vue crash course. Yeah. So before we start with events handling, let me clean up the code. I don't need these two components. Let me delete them. And let's go to app.view. I don't need customer and employee and no imports and no listing. Okay, so it is clear now. Yeah, it's back to original. Yeah, before we start with events handling, what is my example here is first we just start with a very basic events handling called counter example. Okay, so let me increment the number and decrement the number. So how exactly the event handling works in Vue.js. So for that, I go to components folder. So in this, I create one Vue component that is counter, and make sure every component will have starting letter caps. Okay, so counter. So let's say h2 counter. Okay, and let me connect the counter to the app. So let's say counter. So I got counter here. Okay, so let me design this counter and then we'll talk about events handling. So here I'll say one container, one row, a simple bootstrap setup, call MD let's say 4, one card and card header. Okay, or just say directly card body. Okay, you get a card, and well, you want to have some shadow, just add some shadow. Okay, so in this I want to have one heading p.h3 and also some display 3, let's say some count value. Okay, under that I need to have two buttons, one is for increment and one is for decrement. Just say give the class called btn minus success, and let's give this called increment. So increment is one button, another button called btn warning, and this is decrement button. Okay, so two buttons, but both are doesn't have a space. Let's say m1 for margin, m1, and also here m1. Okay, that's fine. So I have two buttons and the count. Here it should be a number and it will get increment or decrement by clicking on these buttons. So to maintain this, you need to have one state variable called counter. So how you create a state variable? You need to write data. So data is of type function. Data is of type function. So in this, I'll have written the state object. In that, count will be 0. Okay, count value is 0. I have initialized a state with state object with count 0, but I have to use this 0 in the place of counter. So you can use the React expression this dot count. So you get the count 0. For example, if this become 100, automatically it will display 100. Okay, whatever the number it is, it display that. Okay, initial values 0. Okay, that's fine. Now the next step is when I click on the increment, I have to increment this number. Click on decrement, I decrement the number. So when I click on this button, you have to call a function. But where do I write those functions? Is same like a data property or props property. You have another property called a predefined property called methods. Okay, so methods is not a function, it's an object. Okay, so this name, data, and methods are predefined properties of Vue.js component. Okay, yeah, methods. So what methods I have is I want one method for increment and one method for decrement. So let's say increment increments is a property is one function. So you can write a methods like this increment one function. So what this will does is it will update this count value to +1 existing count +1. So what you do is this dot count. You can access the internal state data using this keyword. This dot count is equal to this dot count +1. That's all. Okay. So what this function does is it will update the count value to +1. So how many times you call the function is keep updating existing count value +1. Okay. And same like this, I want to create another function that is called decrement. So what decrement does is just simply -1. Okay, so this increments by 1, this decrements by 1. So I have two functions ready and I have to call these two functions the moment I click on these two buttons. Okay, so how you make the events handling here? So generally in JavaScript or React JS or Angular we have on click or click event, but here how to make the events is at the rate. Okay, remember this at the rate click. Okay, what event at click, at close, at input, like a lot of JavaScript events are there. So at click events is equal to I have to call a function. You can just simply say either this dot increment function or at click is equal to this dot decrement. Okay, sometimes if we don't write this keyword also it works mostly. So just say click is equal to increment function, and when you click on this it is decrement function. This is very simple events handling. Okay, so it's calling increment and that increment the number of your counter of state, and that's already been projected here. So now let's check. I refresh. It's been already refreshed, I guess. Yeah, so when I click on increment, see your state has getting incremented. Okay, state count value. Okay, when I click on decrement, now it's getting decremented. So incrementing and decrementing. So this is very simple. I repeat now, you have to declare a state and you can bind it over here. Okay, and then you can make the events handling with like this at click, at close, at on hover, like that. Okay, and you call a function. And how you declare a function is you have a methods, the predefined property. In that is an object. In that you can write your functions like this way. Okay, so this is events handling. Let's take one more events handling where you need to provide some parameter, because these are like empty function call, right? This function doesn't take any parameter. You can just call in this way also. Okay, either you pass through function name, if it is empty function doesn't have any parameter, you can just give only function name. But if it is looking for some value or property, you can just pass on value or property. So let's see that example also now. So what I do is I create So this example goes to be function with parameters. Okay. Yeah. So I create a new component Vue.js, something called wish message, or just say something called greeting component. So let's say h2 greeting. Another example on events handling. So let me disconnect the counter. But if you disconnect, you have to do a lot of things. Remove the counter, remove the import, remove the counter. Okay. Now fine. So now let's connect only the one is greeting. So if you add greeting, automatically it imports greeting from the components folder and it adds greeting. If you are using VS Code, the Visual Studio Code, you need to write this manually and this manually, and you need to add this. Okay, but WebStorm does this automatic. Okay, so now I got greeting component. Okay, yep. So now go to greeting component. Let's make the design and then we'll talk about events handling. So one container, one one row, single column, or else you say call md 5 in that one card body. Okay, yeah, you want to have some shadow. Okay, so here I'll say p.h3 some hello. Okay, and I have three buttons. Just say button with the class btn minus success, btn minus sm, a small button, good morning button. If you don't want sm, we can remove, normal button will come, and m1 for margin. Okay, so like this two other buttons. Let's say btn warning, this is good afternoon, and this is btn danger, this is good evening. Okay, you have three buttons. So my plan is whatever the button I click, this text has to be changed with the wish message, good morning, good afternoon, like that. Okay, let's see how. Okay, first of all, you want to change this message. It's supposed to come from state. So how we declare the state is using data property. Data is of type function. In this, it returns the actual state where I have a message, let's say msg, with a empty string. Okay, so a message is empty string, and this message I want to project here, so I'll write space message, or this say this dot message. Okay, so as of now it is empty because it was empty, but we can check if I add something, it display over there. Okay, so I just have it as empty. Okay, fine. So the moment I click on this, I add with good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So instead of making three separate functions, I create only one function which takes up the value. So how do you create the methods? Methods is one predefined property. It is object where just say wish is my function. I say, or just say like this, greet. So greet is my function. Yeah, what this greet does is it will take the value, okay, the greeting message value, and what it does is this dot message is equal to value. Okay, so simply what I'm doing is greet, it takes some value, and this dot message, the existing state data I'm updating with the property which you have received. In the parameter function parameter, what you receive is assigned to message. So function has been ready. Now we have to call the moment when I click on each button. Okay, so how do I call? So let's say it click is equal to greet function call with with good morning. Okay, click greet good morning. So what happened? This function takes in the parameter called good morning and receives in the value and updates your state, and that state data has been bind over here. So the moment you click on it, it'll display good morning on here. Okay, and even if you want to make some styles of it, you will write some span tag. In that you add it this dot message, and you also have some font weight bold. you get some bold text. Okay, fine. Now let's make something for all the buttons. So this is for good afternoon, this is for good evening. Let's say good afternoon, good evening. So when you click on, you call a function with a different value. So now good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so fine. So now we have understand about events handling. So how event handling works in a Vue.js components. So now the next step is form handling. So how to handle the forms in Vue.js. Like I'll tell you how to make two-way data binding in Vue.js and how to submit a form data also. We'll see now. Okay. So for that, before before that, let's take a backup of this part. Okay. So let's go to our cache codes. I'll copy everything except these two. Yeah, where we are taking backup here. What is events handling? Okay. So I have taken a backup of events handling. So now I can clear the things. Okay. So what I do is I go to app, I delete greet, I delete import, I delete the listing, save it. Okay. And also I go to components and delete both the components. Okay. I don't need them now. So now go back is completely empty. So now let's start with the form handling. All right. So now to start with the form handling, so I create one component that is registration, just a register component. So I'll add a h2 register, okay, component. Now let me connect this component to app. So I'll say register. So this will automatically import and also add a listing. Okay. So register. So you check register has come. Let me design the registration form and then we'll talk about the events. I mean the form handling. So go to register. I'll just make a default configuration. Let's say container one row call MD3 one card and card header and also have a card body. Okay. So for card header, I'll say BG warning and BG warning. Let's say p.h3 register here. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Or else you can just say BG success because the Vue.js color and let's say text white. Okay, registration form and let's say here BG light. Okay, so here I'll take a form. So form and margin bottom to let's say input type equal text, the class called form control and the placeholder is name. Okay, so as soon as I save due to prettier it will arrange the elements, don't worry. Yeah, I have a name. So same like this I need to have few other things. Let's copy. Okay, so name and this is email and of type is email and here is password and this is password and finally this is a button btn minus success. Okay, and its a value is register and type submit. Okay, it is submit button with a value register. So now you check you got the registration form ready and if you want to have any shadow you can add some shadow. Okay, so your registration form has ready. So now let's start with how to handle the form data. Okay, so first of all, to have this two-way binding, you need to have state defined with all the fields. So how you define your status? You have to write data property and it's a function. So this function returns your state. So in this state, I'll take, instead of taking all individual variables, I'll take a user objects. Okay, in that name is just normal empty string, and name, email, and password. Okay, so I have user object with name, email, and password. I have. Okay, so I have this, and how to make this binding here. Before I start binding, I want to project this object on the UI so that I can easily understand is it really binding my state or not. Let me display the state data somewhere on top using pre-tag. Let's say this dot user. Okay, so it will display your state data automatically in a JSON format by default. Yeah, so when I'm typing, it should update my name. So how does this happen? Just very easy. In Vue JS, there is one directory called Vue model. Okay, so to handle this step, so for this name to work with, I mean this name field to bind with this name, what you have to do is colon v, just say not colon, v model is equal to user dot name. That's all. Very simple. Not like React JS, because that's what I told, right? Vue JS is far simpler to learn when compared to React, because React you have to write a lot of function, and you have to make this binding manually, but this happens just on the fly. Even Angular happens like this. Yeah, you have to say v model. That's your directory for binding your form elements with your state data. So v model user dot name. So once you have add just this part, say the magic, when I'm adding, see name is getting update. This is your state data, right? So name is getting update automatically. So now two-way binding has happened automatic. Okay, that's the beauty of Vue.js. So same thing for email and all. So let's copy this part, add for email and also for a password. This is for email and this is for password. So this been binded. Now check, name is working, email working, and password also working. Okay, so it's been bind all, and I don't need to display anymore. I can remove it. That is just for time being. Like, is it really binding or not? So we made it. Yeah. So binding happened, but I have to submit the form data. So how you submit the form data is just say for form at the rate submit at submit. Okay, same like at click at submit. Generally in React JS we write after submit you call a function, and there you say event.prevent default to avoid the page refresh. So here to avoid the page refresh you can just say submit.prevent is equal to register is my function, like this. Okay, at submit.prevent, so prevent default automatically applies over here, and function is register. So how to create this method is data. So after data you write methods, order doesn't matter. Okay, first data then method, or first method then data, your wish. Okay, but make sure this is predefined property. So I have what register is a function. Now you don't need to write event or prevent default because we already written dot prevent. It works the same way. Yep. So what I do is simply you don't have any server connection as of now for this video. So what I do is simply console.log of this dot user. Okay, so what is the user object getting submitted to the server? We'll see now. Okay, so let me refresh, and let's also open this in terminal. I mean, open this inspect. Yeah, let's say, for example, I keep it aside. Okay, so let's say name. Okay, Rajan. Let's say Rajan at gmail.com and some blah 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 password, and then click on register. Yes, see, you got the object name Rajan, email, and password. So this is your form data. Okay, super. So now form data has been captured in the console window. Okay, so now with this example you clearly has understand how to make the forms binding. Okay, the only thing which we have to understand is v model. So this helps you to make two-way binding between your form elements and your state. and state and methods. And to submit the form data, you just say at submit dot prevent and you call a function like this. Okay, this will automatically prevent it, and even it won't refresh when you click on register. Okay, so that's fine. We are done with the form handling, and the next concept is what? Yeah, conditional and list rendering. So let's talk about how conditionally you will render the content. All right. So now before we start with the conditional rendering, let's take a backup of this example. So I go to our UiBrains YouTube. Yeah, here I copy everything except node modules and idea. Crash course. So I create a folder called 03 hyphen forms handling. Okay, so I have taken a backup. Now I can clean up. So here I delete the register view and also go to app. I remove this register and the import and listing. Okay, so now it's clean up. Yeah, let's talk about how conditionally render the content, because in Vue.js or any front-end framework is very regular, because whatever state data you have, right? So conditionally you render. Okay, so depend on you check the condition. If this is your state data, then display this thing, and if something goes like this and display this, like conditionally you can render the content. So let's for making the conditional rendering, I'll take up one example called authentication user. So where what happens is depend on the login. So I'll take a condition called is login or not. Okay, I'll take the condition is login or not. The user is login or not. If the user is login, I'll display some content. If user is not login, I display some other content. So for that, I will create a component. Yeah, in components folder, I create new component. Let's say authentication user. Okay. So let's say h2 authentication user. So first, let me connect that to app so that I can see that on the UI. Okay. Authentication user. So let me design this authentication user, how it works. So let me take one container, one row, single, you can just say column D6, one card and a card body. Okay, so in this I'll take one division. Yeah, p.h3, let's say welcome user. Okay, and let's say font weight bold and text success. Okay, and also I'll take some paragraph lorem 30 tab. Okay, and you wish you can also take class called font weight, no, font style italic. Okay, so I have some content welcome user. I also have some other content, another division. This is let's say something called thank you. Okay, so I have two kind of content, and just to make this is text danger, and this will be some other content lorem 30 tab. Okay, so I have two different contents. One is welcome user and thank you. So what my plan is, if you have login successfully, you get this content. If you have not login, you something like you log out, you get this content. Okay, that's my plan. To make that happen, I need to have two buttons as well. Okay, login and logout. So under that, I'll take another division. Yeah, I'll take two buttons with the class btn minus success. Okay, just say login. So login is one button. You wish you can take some btn small button and some margin. Okay, and same like this, I have btn minus danger button, that is logout. So I have two buttons, login and logout button. So when I'm login, I display this content. When I'm logout, I display this content. So to make this happen, in my state, I need to define one variable is login or not to maintain the state of it. Okay. Yeah. So setup ready. Now let's create a state. Yeah. How you create a status? Data. So let's say data property is a function. So what this function does, it returns the state object, where I'll take a variable is logged in with a value false. So what I'm taking is I'm taking like it's not logged in. Okay, by default when the page is loaded, it's not logged in. So is logged false. Okay, And I also have two methods login. So login is one function which updates this value to true. Logout is one function which update to false. So how we update the state data? This dot is login is equal to true. Simple. Is login is true. And same way, I have one more function called logout. Logout. What it does is make it false. Okay. So login makes true, logout makes false. Okay. So state data is there. Now what my plan is, I want these two buttons, right? So what these two buttons does is, once I click on login, it makes value to true. Once I click on logout, it makes the value to false. But how can you see that value first? Yeah, I'll do one thing. I'll write on pre-tag expression this dot is login so that I can see the value first. Okay, false. So first step, when I click on this button, make it to true. Click on this button, make it to false. Simply, when at click happens is equal to call a function called login. Okay, so at click call the function called log out. Okay, so click login, click logout. What login does makes you true, logout does makes false. And updated value you can see on the UI because we made a pre-tag. Yeah, so it was false. When I click on login, it's true. Click on logout, it's false. So true false is properly working. Okay, so state is getting changed for events. That's fine. But depend on this particular value, I want to display these two guys. So when it is true, I display this content. When it is false, I display this content. So how do I make the conditional is same like V model. So previously we discussed V model, right? To bind the data. Same like that we have condition like V if to check the if condition. Okay. So where you use that is this entire division has to be displayed on a condition. So you write V if on is login. So when this is login is true, then this will this will be injected to the DOM. Otherwise, this will be removed from the DOM. Okay, so this is the condition. Very simple. V if directive and login, and make sure this will be always a boolean value. Okay, is login true or false? Boolean value. You can also write some expression also, so which makes boolean. And this division, I'll say V if is not logged in. Okay, so if the guy is logged in, display welcome user. If the guy is not logged in, display thank you. So now let's check. I refresh. Okay, see by default thank you because it was false. So when I click on login, welcome user, logout, thank you. Okay, so two different text has been displayed on a condition. Okay, but one last thing, I don't want to display both the buttons. This one button, if I'm not login, login button. If I'm login, logout button to display. So what you can do for here as well, I'll say V if is not logged in. If you have not logged in, then display login button. VF is login. If you have login, then display logout button. You can also write conditions for both the buttons as well. So now let's check. I refresh. I don't need to display the false because I already been binded. I don't need that. Yep. See when the page refresh, yeah, it was by default like this. When I click on login, welcome user and some content. The moment I log out, thank you. Login is this one, logout is this one. Okay. So this is how conditionally you render the content from your state data in Vue Js. Okay, so hope you understand how to conditionally render your content. And now let's see, next example is list rendering. So how do you loop through the list of data and render on the UI? Okay, so for looping we use something called v for. Same, for example, vf and v for. So let's take a v for with a new example. All right. So now let me do one thing. I delete this authentication user. I delete this and this. Okay. So now it's completely empty. Yeah, it's empty. So now let's talk about a list rendering. So for list rendering here itself I create one component that is something called user list. Okay, so let's say h2 user list. Let me connect that to app. Let's say here user list component. It been import automatically and the listing. So you get the user list. So the plan here is I have some some list of users from JSON placeholder website. So when I go to JSON placeholder website, and there you can find a lot of links where I can find some list of users. So when this URL, I got list of users. So this array of users I want to loop through and display on my user list. So let's see how it works. Okay. So let's make a design for the user list first. Yeah. First I start with one container, one row and single column. Let's say p.h3 user list. Okay, and if you wish you can say font weight bold and text to success, and also p talorum 3d tab just for user list. Okay, and fine, and if you wish you can just say give a class called font style italic. Okay, yeah, under that I want to display this whole content in a tabular format. Okay, so how you make tabular format? I'll take another row, a single column. Let's take a table. So table with a class called table hover, text to center and table striped. Okay, so t head, table row, th star 6 tab. Okay, so t head I'll give the class called bg light. Okay, so what are the fields I want to display is some serial number, name, email, website, company, address like that. So I'll say serial number, I'll say name, email and company, website, and just say location. Okay, yeah, I have the fields like this. Yeah, so before I proceed to have this data looping, I need to have data in my stater. So this whole data I need to have in my stater. So how do I have a state data is in this I have data is function, so that will return an object. In that users is one array, the complete array I copied from this URL and I paste it for my users. Okay, users is an array of data. Okay, that's fine. Now this users I have to display here. So how do I do? For example, t body table row. So for every iteration, I need to display one object. Okay, how you write the looping is very simple. You write v for when any you have list of items or array of items, you can go with the v for. So let's user of users. Okay, let's use in users. I think no, let just okay. V for user in users. Uh, Not use it. Okay, I'll use it. Okay, and you can also provide some key. Okay, to uniquely identify the record. So key user.id. Okay, because each user have a unique ID. So to uniquely identify the each row for Vue.js, you have to specify the key as well. Yeah, in that you have to specify the table data expression. You say user.id. So you get the all IDs. Okay, and the same way you can write like this name. Okay, and email, and then email and company. But when I say company, I got the complete company object. I just want only the name of it. Let's say company.name. You get the only name of the company. And then website, you get the website. And for location, there is something called address. So if I say address, you get the whole address object, but I just want only the city. So address.city. So you get the city. Quite simple, right? Yeah, and so T head you just say BG success and text white. Okay, this looks good. So what is the my plan is you can have a list of content in your state, and how can you loop through is using a v for directive of Vue.js. So user in uses the list, and then you can use that object for every iteration. This will iterates this particular element. It can be table row, it can be a list of cards or list of items. So it can be anything which any of your HTML snippet you want to repeat through. For that top level element you need to add this, and also make sure you need to add a dynamic key, so which uniquely identifies your rows in your DOM. Okay, that helpful for Vue.js to identify. Okay, that's fine, but unnecessarily my component have full of data. Okay, to avoid this number of lines to have just data like this, you can refactor. What you can do is you can create something called a service, and that will like become like a data service or service provider to provide the data especially. Okay, to simplify these lines of code, what I do is I create another folder called services. I made a mistake. uh, Services. Yeah, in this I create one service, new, just a JavaScript file, no component, just JavaScript file, just say user service, user service. Okay, so I say export class user service. So here I say static users is the whole data. What is the whole data? This is the whole data. So users data is here. What's the problem? Users is equal to, okay, yeah, users is equal to one array of data. So complete data I have taken over here. Now I don't need to maintain data in this, so I can simply remove the data. Just take empty array. So in my component users is empty array. So you don't have anything here because it is now empty. Yep. So I have data taken to the service. But how do I get this data is, let's create one function static get all users. Okay, what it does is it will return you all this data. So return this dot users. So all your local users it will return. So I have to call this function from my component. So how you call is user service, which automatically import from services dot get all users. That's it, simple. See, now its number of lines is reduced. You just have only one line for service dot get all users. So this will fetch all the data and this will become a data provider. Now your component is quite clean. Okay, now you check, you got data. Very simple, right? Yep. So now in this, what we understand is how can we loop through the list of items called array, and also how can you fetch data from a service called user service. Okay, how to create a service also to have a data. But as of now, this data is local, quite local. Now, next example, what we do is how can we fetch this data directly from the server? See, actually, we copied this data to local, right? So instead we can make a Axios call or HTTP call to the server and gets data, load to our state and display. So let's make that now. Okay, so how to make a server request to server for fetching data from server and display here. So actual server data, how can you make a HTTP call? Let's see now. All right, so now for fetching data from server, so what you have to do is you have to install Axios library first. Okay, so to get data from server, you have to depend on Axios again. So to install this, command is npm install Axios. Okay, this is the library to install. So go here. I go terminal. So let's say npm install Axios. Okay, to make the HTTP calls to the server. So to make the backend API calls, so we need this Axios. So let's install it. Okay, it's done. Yeah, so once it is done, I want to get this data from the server. So for that, I will delete this entire array because I don't need this empty. So now user list is empty and get all users also empty. So now we get this data as um, empty, no data. Yeah. So what my plan is, I have to get data by calling this URL. Okay, by sending HTTP request to this URL. So what I do is in service, I say let data URL is equal to, I'll say JSON dot placeholder, this one. Okay. Yep. Now data URL. So now after that, what you do is return Axios, Axios import from Axios dot get of data URL. Okay, so just get request because we're gonna fetch data from server. So get request of data URL. Okay, so let's call this here. First of all, data will be empty. Data will be empty. So initialize with empty array. Initialize with empty array. And when I have to call this data. So remember always in Vue.js. So when you have to fetch data is when this component is created. So there is one lifecycle method called created. So created is a function. So this will fetch data. Okay. So let's make this is asynchronous function. So I write some try catch. Okay. So how I'll fetch data here is let response from server is equal to await user service dot get all users. So this will return a promise. So I'll get it with await. So I'll use console.log of response dot data. Let's see the data in a console log. If something goes wrong, I'll say console.log of error. Okay. So created is a predefined method, predefined lifecycle method. Okay, which executed whenever component is fully created. Okay. Yeah. When I make a call, so let's check. I refresh. Okay, I go inspect. Yeah, I got 10 records from the server, and these 10 records I want to assign to my local variable. So what I do is, so along with this, I also take few other variables like loading false for spinner. Okay, and error message is something null. Okay, so I have taken three variables because loading is for displaying the spinner and users to have a data and errors to have error message if something goes wrong when you fetching data from server. Okay, so before I fetch data, so this dot loading is equal to true. Okay, to start the spinner, and once I fetch data, I'll say this dot loading is equal to false, stop the spinner, and also this dot users is equal to response dot data. Okay, and at the end when something goes wrong, I'll say this dot loading is equal to false, again stop the spinner, and this dot error message is equal to error. Okay, so this add the error to it. Okay, so now let's check. You got the data. Yes, you got data from the server. See, there is no data maintained in my component, and also there is no data maintained in the service as well. This is actually coming from the users service by using Axios call. Okay, from server it's coming directly data. That's fine, but to make this a complete example, what my plan is, I want to display the spinner as well. So how I display the spinner is, um, I need to have one loading GIF, and then I create one component for loading. So for loading, I guess you can Google search for loading GIF. You can do with so loading GIF images. You can search for transparent. Okay, there are a lot of loading GIF images. Yeah, I save this image as on my desktop. Okay, so I got this loading GIF. I'll copy. I'll keep it in the assets folder. Okay, to have this loading, I will create one more component called spinner. So here I'll say division on image src dot slash asset slash loading jf and just say class display block and margin auto. Okay, so this spinner, for example, in app, I'll display the spinner. I think I made a mistake. It should be capital spinner, right? Yeah, spinner. So let's check. See, you get the spinner. Okay, this is my spinner component, but I don't want to display all the time. When I'm trying to fetch data, then only I display this. Okay, so I'll delete it. Okay, and also delete the import statement and this listing. Okay, so I want to have here. So what I do is I go to userless. I go to userless. Yeah, in this before row, I'll write one more division. Here I display spinner. Okay, and condition is v if loading. If it is in loading state, then you display the spinner. And what about the remaining data is v if not loading, if it is not loading and users dot length is greater than 0. Okay, like this. So now what happen if I refresh? You get the loading for a few seconds and then you get the data. Okay, for example, you want to see that clearly, I'll make some wrong URL. See, you got the loading but no data. See, when you make some wrong URL, actually you get the error. Okay, and how does the error is? For example, if I write a pre-tag expression this dot um, not that expression, they say error message. Okay, see, you got the error message actually because I made a wrong URL just for time being. So you get the error message. I want to display the error message if something goes wrong. So what I do is instead I'll take one more division. So let's say some p tag with the class font weight bold and text danger. Okay, let's say error message. Okay, so when this error message should display on condition vf error message. If error message is there, then only it will display. If you have a proper URL, then what happen? No error will display, only loading and only loading and data will come. If you make some wrong URL, then you get the error. Okay. So this is how you generally fetch data from the server using Axios, and you can also implement the loading, and also you can handle the errors, okay, from server, and you can display them using the if conditions v if directive of Vue JS. Okay, that's fine. So now in this concept, what we understand is how can you fetch data from server and loading and error message. So now let's see the last concept. What's the last concept is routing. So how to make routing implements in Vue.js. So let's see that one. All right. So to make routing, what is my plan is I wanted to take an example. So for example, this is my application. So in this, I will take one navbar like this. Okay. So in this navbar, I will have the heading, something called view router. That's a heading of your application. And then I have few links like a homepage link and users and about. Okay, I need to have these links like this, and then according to this the link which you click, I want to display that particular data here. Okay, let's start that routing now. So first of all, to implement routing, we need to install a view router, but which was already inbuilt Okay, when you select the view mastery while creating the project. So I'll show you. In the package.json, you have a view router already installed. If you don't have, you have to say npm install view router, so it will install. But for us, this view router setup has already been there. First, you have to install it, and then for router, there is a folder already written, router folder index.js. So in this, you have all the routings already been written. Okay, routes is an array. What is the path? What is the name? And what is the component to be loaded for that particular path? And this is for eager loading, and this is for lazy loading. Okay, to make lazy loading, you just need to import the path of the component. You may write this one or this one. Okay, and then there are basic some configuration regarding the routing, and that's been already been configured in main.js as a use router. Okay, so complete setup is already there. Only thing is you need to manage this file to have your own routing. Okay, so as per our example, we have home and about already. For example, if you see the views, home is there, app home about already been there. Okay, we need users for user list also there. Okay, user list is also there. Okay, now I don't need actually authentication user, I can remove it. Okay, any issue once again? Yeah, no issue, no problem, nowhere I'm using. Okay, fine. So user list is for users I use, and one more thing I need is navbar. Okay, let's create one component called navbar. So let's create a view component called navbar. Okay, let's say directly write h2 navbar. Okay, so what I do is in the index.js, where you have to write in the app.view, yeah, app.view, I want to configure the routing now. So I will delete the entire setup. So now it will be completely empty, and I don't need any user list. I don't need user list. Yeah, it is empty like this. Okay, that's fine. Uh, why does this prettier works for me? Actually, yeah, something like h2 app component, something should be there. It should not, template should not be empty, so I just give some data. Okay, that's fine. Now what I do is I'll make first navbar. So navbar tag will display. Here you make a navbar. Under that, I want to add a routing. So all routings you will write inside the index.js here. But how can I configure all these routings? Here is there is a tag called router view. Okay, so what it does is according to this routing configuration, so that particular component gets loaded under the navbar of app component. See, by default, this V symbol has come. Why this V symbol has come is, as per routing configuration, path is slash, name is home component. So when the slash is made, I think it's not that one. The slash is made. Come on, dude. When slash is made, it is home component. When you go to home, nothing is there, just image is there, view logo. That's why it is coming. Okay, so first let's focus on navbar, how you display navbar. Navbar, I just start using nav tag with a class called navbar navbar dark and bg success and navbar expand sm. Okay, one container. Okay, fine. And then here I'll take one router link. Generally you write anchor tag, but in this you write a router link. Okay, in react we have link. Okay, here router link to slash, and as they say react, not react, it's a view router. Okay, and you want to give a classes, give the class called navbar brand. Okay, it's a view router. Okay, and then under that I'll take collapse, navbar collapse, in that one ul, one li, and one router link slash. Okay, this will be our home. Okay, home, but it not have a styles. So you can give a class called navbar nav. This is nav item. Come on, dude. Nav item, and this is the class called nav link. You get a home there. Okay, so you can also add some px3 just to have some more space around it. Yeah, or px5, more space. Okay, so I have few other links. One is, yeah, for home page path is slash and slash users. I want to have users link, and slash about. I to have about link. Okay, yeah, so I got a nav bar with, I think px4 is too much. Just say px3. Okay, so home users about, for each I made a path. So for home slash, and when the slash happens, what to load? Home page to be loaded. That's why home page by default is loaded. When I click on users, for slash users, nothing has been loaded. Why? Because there is nothing configured for slash users. I'll copy. So for slash users, I'll say user list to be loaded, and component is user list component. So what happened now? See, home page is view, users is user list is loaded. Okay, for about page is loaded because which already there, because here about slash about. So slash about what to load, slash about dot view to be loaded. That is the content of here. Okay, simple. Now let's make the view home page first. Go to home dot view. So I make something like this. I make my own content. It was pretty fine. So container one row, sorry, one single column. I'll paste image, and let's say something called text center. It comes center and margin top 5. Okay, and under that I'll say p dot h3 and something called display 3. Just say view router. Okay, and let's say something called text muted. Okay, view router, that's my home page, and I have a paragraph with some lorem 40 or 50 tab. Okay, and also let's make this class for font style italic. Okay, so this will be your home page. You can make background image and all, but I just make like this. Yeah, users I have it, about I have, but about is very, very simple. So for about, what I do is go to about. So let's make my own setup again. Container one row single column p dot h3 about us. Okay, let's make some margin top 3. Let's give font weight bold and text success. Okay, let's say paragraph lorem 30 tab, and also let's make the font weight bold. Okay, about page, not bold, font style italic. Yeah, under that I'll take something like, under the row, another row, a single column, just make one ul li. Okay, give the class called list group, and this is list group item. So I'll say name of the application, just say app name. I write some span with the class font weight bold. Let's say view router. Okay, so I have a, what's the problem? Okay, you have a spinner, right? I think this is not the one I'm using. Yeah, view router app name. and then let's copy. So app name and author I'll say, let's take my name. Okay, and then version. So what is your application version? Not a Vue.js version, this application version. Let's say app version. Something that means just 1.0.1. Okay, this is about page. Okay, so home page, users page, and about page. Okay, that looks good. But for here users, I need to have some margin doc. So what I do is go to index user list here. Let's say some margin top 3. Okay, yeah, this is fine. And if you want to display the particular person data, for example, I want to make this name as a link. This name as a link. The moment I click on this person, I want to go backward and forward. Okay, so when I click on this person name, I want to shift to another page where I have to have a details. So for that, what I do is I create one more component called user details. Okay, let's say h2 user details. Okay, and when does this user details loaded? Let me configure in the router. Copy this. So users is slash colon user ID. So whenever you make the unique ID, then user details gets loaded. Okay, when you make the slash ID, then user details, the particular person data gets loaded because every person have an ID. So I'll send ID on the URL. So I'll get the URL from the ID and then, I'll get ID from the URL and then display the details of the user. Okay. So to make this to visible, I need to make this as a link. So where is that in the user list? So back here it is username. So I'll cut it. I'll make here as a router link. Okay. So router link name. This become a link. You want to have some more styles. You can just say class name, uh, text decoration none, and font weight bold and text success. Okay. So this looks good as a link. But what is the link? If I keep a cursor, slash ID should come. So to what I do is I'll say colon because dynamic value I'm gonna add slash users slash added with user.id. Okay, so the path will be to slash user slash user id. So what happened? I refresh. See the something bottom at the left bottom. If I keep a cursor, see user slash one, user slash two, three, four, like that here left side. So you can able to get the one. So when I click on Learning Graham, I got user slash one and I got user details. But I want to get Learning Graham's data. So how you get Learning Graham's data? You have to get this ID. So how you can get that ID is, let's quickly go to user details. Yep, here you need to get the user ID. How you get it is, when it is created, when this is created, I'll make a function. Yeah, here let's user ID is equal to this dot dollar router dollar root, I think router dot params, not router, the root dot params dot user ID. So you will get the user ID here. Okay, you can just say console.log of user ID. You get the user ID from the URL. Okay, but I don't need user ID. I just want to get the user details of that ID. Okay, so for that what I do is, see here the same URL, when I say slash one, you get that person data. So you have to make a request for this one by passing an ID. So where are we making this server call is user service. So in user service, I'll make one more function, get user. So here I'll say user ID you need to pass the user ID which you receive from URL, and I say slash user ID. Okay, if I provide user ID, that particular data will come. So I have to call this function from my user details. So I'll say try catch. Okay, so here I say let response is equal to await. I think I need to make this is async. Okay, let's say await user service. No, not done. User service dot get user of user ID. Okay, you get the response. You can make it console.log of response dot data. Okay, if something goes wrong, console dot log of error. Let's make the error. Okay, so you want to see what is that exact data comes from the server. Go back. I refresh. For one whose data has to come, Learning Graham. See, Learning Graham has come. Okay, I keep this aside. Okay, users. See, this I keep aside. Learning Graham. So I click on Erwin. See, Erwin Howell data has come. Okay, that way. Yeah, but we are getting data, but that data has not been displayed here. So I need to assign to the state. How you make the state? You need to make a function data. So return the actual state where loading becomes false. Okay, for spinner, and user object is empty object, and what else? Error message. Just null. Okay. Now I need to assign. So this dot loading before I call is false. Sorry, is true. And once I receive data, this dot loading is false, and this dot user is equal to respond dot data, the user object. And if something goes wrong, this dot loading is equal to false, and this dot error message is equal to error. Okay, fine. So now we have actual data on the state. So depend on the state I have to display on the UI. So let me display this. For example, I'll say one container, one row. Okay, let's say one row, single column. So let's write some pre-tag for user data. Just say user. See, you get the user data. Okay, and along with this, I need to have um, another row, single column. Let's write one router link button. Okay, back button. So when I click on back button, I go to slash users path. Okay, you can give a class like a button btn minus success. Okay, I have a back button as well. Okay, that's fine. Some space at the left side, I'll make this. Okay, so I just kept only the pre-tag, just like raw data. You can convert this like a UL tag or table, whatever you want, or card, whatever you want. So I'm just leaving this for you because data is coming. Only thing is you have to display it like a nice, HTML format, user dot and all. You can try that. Okay, and you want to have what? This is container. Huh? Oh, I kept an outside a container. You kept inside a container. Okay. So you want to have a loading also you can make, for example, division. So loading, what you do is vf loading, then display spinner. Okay, and this row will be vf not loading and user object. Just say object dot keys of user dot length is greater than 0. So object user object is not empty and not loading, then display. Okay, for example, what happened? Users, when I click on Erwin, loading and data back. I click on this guy, loading and data and the back. Okay, that way. So this page I wanted it left for you to make it like your own design. You can make it, and back button you get the actual data. So that's it. We made a home page. See, the page is not getting refreshed because single page application. So home page, users and about. Okay. So it's perfectly working, and you can even go back and forth with a spinner. Okay. So that's it, guys. So we have came to the end of the session. Okay, routing also we discuss. So thank you so much for being with me in learning Vue JS crash course 2022. So thank you so much, and please practice up to here, and so with this knowledge you can develop even better application than Vue.js, and coming videos we let's see we can make even more and better applications with this basic knowledge of Vue.js. Okay, so thank you so much, and please subscribe to my channel, and we'll meet in the next video.